So the first person that I'm going to go to, oh, Tanya, there we go. I see you. You're in the middle of my screen. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good.
So Tanya wanted to bring up a challenge. So what she submitted to us was kind of about the logistics. So what do you do when you're getting fewer qualified candidates and then some of the candidates that you're hiring maybe aren't working out? So Tanya, take about a minute. Tell us a little bit more about the challenge and then we'll open it up to the group.
Great. So we are a company of about 25 staff, and we have luckily been able to, we haven't had to do any layoffs during this last year, but we have had some staff turnover. And so we've been recruiting for probably 3 to 5 positions throughout the year, both like administrative support and then also kind of like professional service level positions. And what we are finding is number one, it doesn't seem like tons of qualified people are job searching right now. Not a lot of people are entering the job market, right, in a really weird time. And so it's hard to find great people. We're finding that the people we are attracting are really uncertain, kind of like they're unsure, right? We're unsure about them. They're unsure about us. We're finding that people they're asking us sometimes once we've made a job offer, if they can get back to us in 1 to 2 weeks, which is for us a lot of lost time in the recruitment and hiring process while the rest of our team is waiting for that support to arrive, right? And we've made a couple of hires that were with us for 10 days and, we kind of mutually decided that they weren't going to work out. It was just for whatever reason, we had not vetted each other well enough to see that it was going to be a good fit. And I think part of that was remote interviews, onboarding that is bumpy and, kind of we can't follow our normal model. So we've had all of those challenges in the kind of finding people and getting them, through their first 30 days.
Yes. Okay. And I saw a couple of head nods while you were talking. So it seems like you're not alone. I saw a couple of smirks, especially when you said people are not sure, the job candidates are not sure. So can anyone speak to a similar experience and maybe if there's some things that have worked for you with those challenges that Tanya shared?
Rachel,
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead,
Deanna
Jeff.
with employer. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead. Well, Deanna, and then we'll go to Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah. So Deanna Baumgartner with Employers Advantage. And one of the things that we found is that some of the information that people put in their job posting depends, that's going to be who you attract. So a lot of times we find that small businesses they'll basically take the job description and put it in a job posting, which is not necessarily what job seekers are looking for. So like recently we were working with a small business, we were trying to find a certain type of candidate for a role, and we completely modified the job posting to engage the characteristics and the type of candidate that we were looking for. And we're also including the compensation ranges. I think as much transparency as you can put in the job posting and the why somebody would want to come work with you and what specifically you might be looking for, that's helped kind of weed out some of the candidates that they were getting before that weren't qualified for the role. And the other thing they were using was they were using a job title that was, I guess, kind of trendy, but not necessarily relevant to the job. And so they were getting people who were used to that job title not being in that same type of role. So you might have to post your job with a different job title, but then reference what you use internally as your job title in the job posting to make sure that you are attracting those right candidates.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Let's go to Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, my question, just one qualifying question. The people that are leaving, were they qualified? Do you feel like they were qualified?
Yeah, we had one really exceptional employee move to another state to be with her parents. We had one of our managers who went part-time for a little while to juggle family life, did that for about 6 months, and then just decided this is a great time to be a full-time mom. So we've had kind of those people who have reassessed where they're at in their life, and then, you know, have kind of made those decisions to, you know, be with family or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just add, well, that's good, right? So you're hiring qualified, and now it's a culture or personal. I mean, everything's topsy-turvy right now, we know. 3 months ago, I posted an ad and had terrible response. I felt like I'm not going to find anyone. And a week ago, I posted a similar ad and there were 10 qualified people. So I do feel like there's I don't know, maybe there's a little luck involved, but it's just staying with it and not settling. And it seems like it's getting better, and people are getting more settled, more comfortable. So stick with it for sure.
Yeah, that's good advice.
That's good.
Anybody else?
Hey, this is Ramon. I posted something in the chat, but I'm happy to repeat it here, or should I leave it in the chat?
Go for it.
Yeah, what I posted, and if it's the wrong context, but I recently just hired my son to head marketing for Smart Hustle. And my question, it may be a longer answer, but maybe some ideas. I want to pay him a base pay, and then I want to give him an incentive based on some things he's working on, you know, some specific projects and milestones. And then I'd love to give him a share of the entire company. So I'm sure there's a longer answer, but any tips, ideas, suggestions, resources of that kind of, not so much hiring somebody family business, that's another conversation, but just incentivizing in these distinct areas. So thanks.
Yeah, we have some resources too that we can share afterward about those different, how to do those different pay setups. But I think that's an interesting way to go with a new hire, and especially with family too. Anybody else on this question of just candidates either not working out within the first, within the first month, first little bit of time that they're onboarded, or just a lack of quality candidates? Has anyone done anything creative to try and get more qualified candidates in?
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
This is Sharon from Idea Decanter, and we might be a little bit on a different edge. We're a video marketing company, and we posted a job listing right after COVID hit, and we got like 8 million applicants. And we hired a great guy. And then we just posted one recently. And what we did is we really strived to show like the personality we're looking for, as well as what the job expectation is, because we are a company of 3 full-time people. And so having another full-time person is like, that's a quarter of our company. And I will say that is the hardest thing we're struggling with, is we get people who are technically qualified, but finding the right fit for someone who can mesh with the personalities of such a small company has been our biggest struggle. And we hired a woman who was great on paper. She interviewed great in October, and I just had to do my first fire, which was the most heart-wrenching thing I've ever had to do in my life. I never really want to do it again. And it was really all about, I mean, like, it was getting to the point when she called, my heart just was dreading it. It was always like everything was a problem. So that's our biggest struggle, is finding that personality and like that creating a corporate personality in a virtual world is the biggest problem for us.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about that too. And I think there's a couple, like Jeff in the chat talked about the importance of sharing the company culture, the personality of the company. And Sharon, just for you, making those fires is really hard and really scary, and it's a brave thing to do. So good job on doing that, especially when it seemed like it was time. Tanya, does that give you a couple ideas? It sounds like you've got some resources, or at least some ideas of how to maybe tweak the ad, maybe look at the title. Do you feel like you have a way forward?
Yeah, those are some great suggestions. I'm curious if anybody has thoughts specifically on this on this kind of new trend that we've seen with people asking for an extended period of time to evaluate the job offer. I was very accustomed to, in years past, making a job offer and the candidate is excited and they kind of accept on the spot, or they just want to talk with their spouse that night and get back to me the next day. And I now have people saying, like, can I have a week to think about this? is that, first of all, does anybody have experience? And you know, my thoughts on that are, I want to respect people's process, right? It helps us both know if we're a good fit. But at the same time, I can't lose weeks on a candidate who is going to reject me 10 days later.
Yes, absolutely. Heidi, I see your hand, and then Jesse and Lauren, I didn't see your hands before, but we'll come to you after Heidi.
We just dealt with this a couple of times in our company. We're hiring a unique role that's hard to hire in general. And we had somebody prolong it. And then here, what we discovered is it seems like people who are asking to prolong are also vetting a couple different job offers, and they're interviewing at several different places. So one way we've kind of not gotten around it, but one thing that we're implementing now is when we give a job offer, we ask for a deadline. Like we give them a time that we expect to hear back from them. And for all the reasons you just said, because if it's not going to work out, or you're going to string us along, we got strung along for a month for somebody who was going to move and then didn't. If you're going to string us along, then we have to keep interviewing. So so maybe give a deadline.
Yeah, that's great. And you're not alone, Tanya. Jesse, go to you.
Yeah, we hire a lot of folks right out of college, and we're finding, I think, the same thing that you are, that experienced candidates are few and far between these days. It's very difficult for us to hire senior people. But at that lower experience end, it's the opposite for us. We're seeing a lot of people who graduated this past spring, or spring of 2020, still kind of looking for jobs. And so our candidate pool on that end is larger than it's been in the past. And I don't know if that's an option, if you're able to do any kind of training. But there are a lot of great students who had jobs taken away, offers rescinded. So that might be an option. I don't know if it works for your business and your culture, but one place to look.
That's great. Thank you, Jesse. And Lauren, I think I saw you. I think you might have gone off of video, but are you still on audio? There we go.
I've got a crying toddler. I'll pass on my comment.
No problem. Feel free to send it in the chat or we can follow up. All right.
So
Any
thank
other
you.
thoughts?
It's really good feedback.
Okay, great. I'm glad. Thank you all for chiming in. And there's a lot of good stuff in the chat too. So feel free to check that out as well. Okay, so this is perfect timing because the next person that I wanted to talk to was Jesse. So Jesse, what you submitted was really about the difficulty of onboarding someone. So after you've already found that person, getting them onboarded and helping them get to know everybody and get to know the company culture when they're not just learning from everybody in person. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we rely very heavily on personal relationships in the office. We really want everyone to help each other learn and grow, to help each other through difficult problems, to be comfortable reaching out for help when the tension is high, And so we really value people working together, people being together, and lean on that very heavily. And we've been missing that, because we've all been working at home during the pandemic. And I think what we find is that most of that relationship building happens in the spaces in between work rather than during the work. So when we're at the snack table, when we're going out to lunch together, when we're hanging out after work, something like that. And this year, what we found is that people are on Zoom and talking to get the work done, but as soon as the work is done, people hang up. And so a lot of that in between space is kind of gone. And I'm interested to hear what other folks have done to, we've tried a lot of things, some that have worked, some that haven't. Mostly they haven't worked for very long. I'm just interested to hear what other people have done.
Yeah, before I open it up, one question for you, Jesse. Can you give us an example of a couple things that you've tried that haven't worked?
Yeah, so we used to have kind of an end of the week Friday toast where people would just share something that they were grateful for that happened that week, recognize someone in the company. And it was really heartwarming to hear all the great things that were happening. But attendance started at 50% of the company, and then it was 45, and then it was 40, and pretty soon no one was going anymore, and we canceled it. And we used to do a lot more outdoorsy stuff where we'd meet for hikes. And as the weather got colder, those things started to shut down. There were, different activities that we tried to do kind of at the end of the day. And pretty much all of them, what we found is that there might be initial interest and then it dwindles off over time.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Any thoughts on ideas for Jesse for not only activities, but also how to keep engagement up in those? Mish.
Yeah, I have a pretty simple template that I give my clients because that's not exactly what I do, but I've run enough companies that I know onboarding has to include these 3 things. Pick a timeline, you know, whether it's 90 days, 30 days, whatever. What do you want that person to know at the end of 90 days? What do you want them to do by the end of 90 days? And probably the most important, but most foo-foo seeming, is what do you want them to feel at the end of 90 days? So if you pick things like you want them to feel empowered, then there's certain people that they have to get to know. And I think now it has changed a little bit, like how you get the feel done is really picking out the people that you need to have some direct time get to know you stuff with, you know, like you know how we all do the networking things for LinkedIn, you know, the 30 minutes, those are great with your team too.
Yeah, those are great questions. Thank you. Heidi gave some fun advice in the chat. While the person is still getting comfortable, ask them, why are you annoying? She said we get the best answers and we see self-awareness and perceived weaknesses that are really strengths. That's a really fun question. I like that. What else? What are some other things that anyone has tried for, it sounds like either onboarding a new employee, helping them get to know the culture, or even keeping your current employees engaged in weird times? Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Hey, everyone. I was just going to say that I think one of the reasons why the whole water cooler talk works is because it's unplanned. It's a situation where you just sort of see someone and you start chatting, whatever it is, about work, about not work, about whatever. And I think like we had the same thing that you did, Jess. We had the Friday, you know, beer at 4 o'clock, and it turned into, oh, we got to go to this meeting. We got to go to a meeting. And it's almost like if you just sort of plan yourself to make a Zoom call to a person, you know, every day, unplanned. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? What's the deal? That sort of interaction, I think, is a little bit more similar to the water cooler chat than a planned, hey, let's get together at a certain time at a certain date.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe some smaller groups and maybe just more organically. Sue, go ahead.
One of these is from one of my colleagues, another one is from me. She owns a very small tech firm, and it really impressed me because they usually have like a Friday, you know, pizza day or Friday morning something. So she told me that she and 2 of her partners were in Chicago, and she said, we bought a bunch of donuts, we split up the employee list, and the 3 of us personally delivered these donuts before our 10 o'clock meeting. And that impressed me. And I thought, you know what, here's these partners drive around Chicago because they just really, their team engagement was really important. And, you know, she goes, since we're not in the office, and I thought, you know what, it doesn't matter what they spend. It matters that these highly paid people drove around and hand delivered, you know, these items. And then something I presented a couple months ago was, because I did a talk on working with virtual teams, was paying attention to our staff. You know, some people are not great working from home. Some people love working from home, and really paying attention on our team calls of who's being more quiet. You know, if they're really, really a bubbly person, are they quiet? Is their camera not on something? And really paying attention to having those, you know what, reaching out on those one-on-one, because again, all of us, our time is very valuable, and reaching out to our staff individually and saying, okay, I'm noticing that you're not yourself. Is something going on? Is there something we can help you with? And I have found that, you know, I've heard that the mental health and unfortunately domestic violence has gone way up last year because some people are not safe in their homes. So just really letting our teams know, hey, we're watching, we're paying attention, we really do care. And what can we do? And those one-on-ones, as the gentleman mentioned, really let our teams know that, oh, they really are. It's not just words. They really are watching us, and they want to take care of us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things too in the chat that have been mentioned. So Chelsea, I like what you shared here of some small breakout sessions after Zoom, similar to if you're in the office and you stop by someone's desk. That's a really nice way to replicate that. I've seen a couple mentions of having a water cooler channel in Slack to show pictures of your kids or dogs or just what's happening in your life off of the screen. Let's see. Oh, another one, this is so fun, a Spotify playlist, a shared one for employees. I think that's a really fun idea too. Anything else? Any other ideas for Jessie for this engagement part?
We're planning a development day for our team because we're all virtual. We've got people in Florida, in Kansas City, in Seattle, and we are having Goldbelly cater it. So everyone's going to get like a meal packet the day that it's happening. And I think we might have a goat join our Zoom. That's our big tip.
I have seen that where you can video chat with a goat, right? Is that what you're doing?
Exactly. Except I think the goat that I saw was in the UK. So I'm not sure about the time zone. We'll see.
And the accent, you know?
Exactly.
That is so fun. That's for sure one of the more creative things that we've heard. So Jessie, you think there's going to be a goat on Atomic Objects Friday Zoom chat?
I sure hope so.
Does that give you a couple of ideas? Okay, good. One other thing that I know, we had a virtual Teams roundtable like this recently, and something that a leader shared was just having these available. There's going to be engagement. Sometimes there's going to be less engagement, other times just based on what your employees need. So having it there is the biggest part. So I'm really glad that you all are doing these really creative things. That's fun. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So for this one, Emily, I'm gonna go to you. And Emily, for the first time, is doing remote hiring. So had some questions on just how to do it. And the one that I thought we all could help with was just some online tools that we've used to facilitate the remote hiring and onboarding process. So Emily, I'm gonna go to you. Tell us a little bit more about this challenge that you're facing.
Sure. So we have not hired since the pandemic started. And when we were hiring in the past, people would be here in person and we would work with them side by side to review benefits, to review all of the onboarding paperwork, all of that stuff. So now that we are at the point where we're hiring, we need to figure out how to do it all remotely, electronically. So I'm curious to know what tools have people used out there that they have had success with, or what would they recommend not using?
Yeah, that's a good side too. What are some recommendations? Go ahead, Jeff.
For us, I think the number one tool, let's say you've got them already on your team, we use Loom, which is basically an easy way to record videos. And we are basically like, that's building out their whole training. Is someone's doing a 2-minute Loom on how to do this one task, and then we put it in their room or in their group, and you end up with this great library of how to do these certain tasks. Screen share, it's real easy. And that's in our whole company, really, that's been like the number one breakthrough for us, has been Looming someone, instructions on how to do something. They can watch it on their own time. You don't have to meet. And now you're building this knowledge base of how to do things.
That sounds like a great one. Deanna, did I see your hand? Go ahead.
Yes. So, for some of the administrative pieces, you can, like if you're using a payroll system, sometimes there's functionality within payroll systems that allow you to do the electronic onboarding, for the employee paperwork. And sometimes you can link your benefit administration to those. So that takes away some of the administrative piece and the paper piece. There's like, we use Bamboo HR. I know Gusto is pretty similar to that, where everything is, of course, online. And then when somebody comes in, you can ask them, any questions you want. So it sends a notice to all the new employees like, oh, today is Sandra's first day and here's why she got into her career. It's kind of creates a little more engagement in an onboarding process. But for your benefits piece too, I think we rely heavily on our benefit broker to help us with that, because they have some tools to, that they can create packets for you, whether electronic or, mail them out. That might be worth asking your benefit broker if there's something they can help too. But I like Jeff's idea, those Loom videos. That's great.
I saw too in the chat people talking about sending new employees, or it looks like maybe new fellows packages in the mail. So that's really nice too, to make that personal outreach. What else? What other tools or resources have people been leaning on the past year or so when they've gone virtual?
I think for me, this is Ramon, I think it's just saying you care. I just wanted to say old school, that's the big, there's a lot of tools, but I think I've just tried to learn to ask my team, are you okay? How are things? Let's laugh. I care, I'm here. And that's been appreciated. So, old school works too.
Absolutely. Natalie, I saw your hand. Go ahead. Oh, you're still on mute though. There we go.
So just to respond to, I think it was Deanna, or it was Deanna. We are huge fans of Gusto. That is a really great tool for the onboarding and the financial pieces. I went to onboard a new employee and realized I had to do none of that paperwork because it was all handled through Gusto. It was amazing. But some of the other tools that we found to be helpful, we use Slack for internal communication, which has been so helpful during the pandemic because so many of the small cultural things we can do there that we might normally do in person. And then in addition to the Loom videos, which we use for training, we also use an app called Bonjoro, which is sending little sort of welcome videos. So Loom is like when you're on your computer, this is just sort of through your phone, and it's sort of like I don't know, it's like a little card, which has just been sort of a surprise and delight kind of moment. It's not about training, it's just a little hello. So that's been really helpful. And then we, being a small tech company, we didn't have any sort of one place for internal documentation. I know that once you get bigger, you put those things in place. So we had to pick pretty quickly what we were going to use, and ended up working with a Google tool to create what was our sort of home base, where we could have, these are all the employees on the team, and this is what we do, and this is where you find information, etc. So anyway, just a few of the things that we've been using early stage here for tech tools.
Those are awesome. Thank you. There's a couple more in the chat too. So I see Mural. Mural is really fun for if you want that whiteboard experience, you want to be able to draw things and show people things. There's a lot you can do there. Slack and Google Teams, a slide deck with the history of the company. That's really great to give people that background. What are some other things? What are some other tools that people have learned to love over the past year or so?
I'll share. Google Jamboard has been really great when you want to do things like give a candidate an assignment, and you want to see how they're working, and you want to see how they're working with whoever is on the team that's on the call too. It's great. Love Google Jamboard.
Awesome. That's great. Go ahead, Heidi.
We started using it and need to get back to it, but we used Trainual, and I think it was really great specifically for teams that needed different kinds of training. So our customer service agents need the history training, they need brand training, they obviously need kind of the customer service mission and pledge, and they also need a lot of product training because it's apparel. So because there are so much training, but it can be really overwhelming, we use Trainual to build these little mini lessons, and then they take a quiz after. And it's not like overwhelming, but the little quizzes kind of like reinforce that they paid attention and that they can keep moving. And it kind of, makes their manager like see how far they really are. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that echo here in the chat, as well as a company called Kudos to give employee to employee recognition. That's really cool. Anything else? Okay, cool. So does that give you, Emily, a couple ideas? Probably too many for right now, but don't worry, we took notes of all of them so we can share that. But does that give you a couple ideas as you're going into hiring virtually?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really helpful. Thanks.
Okay, good. Let's see. So we have a little bit of time here. I'd love to open it up to the group. What is a challenge that you are facing that you want to share about, and how can we help? It can be around the hiring part. It can be around attracting qualified candidates, or about your onboarding process. Let's do a show of hands. How many people are currently hiring? Wow. Okay. So almost everybody, at least for people with their videos on, almost everybody. How's it going so far? Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm gonna try to get through it without my toddler yelling. But one thing that we have been experiencing is, I want to echo some of the earlier concerns that I was hearing. We're finding we get qualified candidates in spurts, and then we'll go for a really long period of time with like job postings and like really no one really hitting the mark. So we found ourselves changing our own expectations. And so we'll hire and then hope to support that person and just give it like a good 90-day shot. Like maybe this isn't the right person for the role. Maybe it is. But what we're finding hard or difficult is to like what that support that person needs to be successful in their role, to make a 90-day decision whether or not it's a good fit, knowing that we fully, we're giving it a shot. Someone had made a comment on my team earlier that, like, to use like what we call a sports ball analogy, because none of us are into sports, but like coaching happens outside of the game, but a lot of it happens inside the game. What we're struggling with is like, it's that real in the game coaching that we can't seem to create a real defined process around in our remote environment right now. Before it was like, you could call people into meetings, they could shadow you, it was an immersive experience. Right now it's like, it has to be really intentional, and we're struggling with like, what is that?
Yeah, that's a great one. So what has anyone experienced something, or they found something that's worked for that? I love the in the game coaching for employees.
One thing that we're doing right now, since we're hiring, like we're literally interviewing this week, is we have 3 rounds of interviews, and then I have created basically like a whole schedule for the first week of like everything they're doing. So like there's project management training, because we use Rike and it's not the easiest thing in the world to get into. And just setting, so they know what to do, right? Like I think when you show up to a new job, like usually you have someone you shadow or whatever, and now we don't have that aspect. So it's like, I've just like literally like scheduled every second of their day, which is hard, but I think it's helpful for them, at least for that first week, to know what's expected and where they need to be and what they need to do.
That's great. You don't have that dreaded, where should I be right now? I should be working. I don't know what I need to be doing right now. You avoid that. What else? Go ahead, Heidi.
I'm an oversharer today. I put this in the chat, but I'm already finding success with, we're trying a whole new recruitment strategy where we've built internships as experiential learning. And so I'm working really closely with the professional recruiting, like college folks. They have all kinds of different titles. But the colleges, these people at colleges, want to give their students these experiences, so they're hired, because that's what the point of college is, right? To get their students jobs. And so essentially I found that now that I've made these relationships with all these different professional learning people at all the universities, they're like recruitment staff on my team. And they help me, and they always want to tell me the best people that fit the roles that I have. And then I've built this internship team. So right now we have a team of 7 for a semester. And it's been really cool because we pay them, like they're being paid, they have real professional work. We're getting great new ideas. A lot of them know the tools or the business challenges or the world just as well as somebody who's been with the company for a long time, because I feel like, well, that's how Gen Z is. But then we're also kind of picking off the people who are great to stay on our team. So it's not just an experiential learning. It's not just a recruitment or a training kind of opportunity. It's really a recruitment strategy. So it's obviously a little long-term and it doesn't fit for if you're hiring like managers or directors, but it's going awesome right now. So.
Oh, that's great. Let's see, for the shadowing part. So Jeff, you said you still do a lot of shadowing virtually live or watching recordings. Can you tell us how you set that up?
It obviously it depends on the level, but like for our technical support or our onboarding program, we literally would have, just like if you're at the restaurant and, the server has their person with them shadowing, we would do the same thing. So, in an onboarding situation, they would say, hey, Carrie's going to join us for our onboarding call today. And she's just watching, she's a fly on the wall, and that's all she's doing. And she's seeing the interaction. And then, she's, maybe chatting on the side, but most likely just watching. And then we'll flip it at some point. So after, you've shadowed and you've watched for 2 weeks and you're building up your confidence. Now we flip it. Now, Carrie, I don't know if that was the same name. That person is now flipped and they are leading the call and they have the most experienced person with them as their backdrop. So we really encourage, like, go play out in traffic. Like, you have to learn by doing it. And we can never train enough to have someone know all the answers. So, we do that until they're ready to fly. And then it's, chat. Maybe you're, behind the scenes, the manager is there and they're able to answer questions, or they just say, hey, I'll get back to you with that answer. But we throw them out there as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's great. And I like that you're basically taking the same process that you would do in person, just finding a way to do it virtually. One thing, so let's see. Alyssa in the chat, I love this idea, using scorecards. So first of all, scheduling out a new hire's first 2 weeks, including all of the meetings with other team members to learn, do some screen sharing there. Also using scorecards to show the new hire exactly what's expected of them, so they have confidence and they know, again, what's expected of them, which is key. Okay, anything else around this topic? Lauren, does that give you a couple of ideas?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you guys.
Okay, so then I want to go back to Ramon. So I want to circle back to your question around this compensation that you're delving into. So just to reiterate, so you have hired your son, you want to give him a base pay for the stuff that he's just doing day to day, but then also do some profit sharing. So any thoughts for Ramon on this way that he's going about compensation? Any feedback or thoughts for him? Does anyone have a setup with their current employees, maybe outside of a sales team where they have a base pay plus incentivized comp?
And if it's helpful as well, I see everybody getting ready to download tons of answers to me. So I'm going to take all those answers, but it's not a sales role, just to be clear. It's family, my son, so want to build in, he's young, just to give the context. So, hey, I'll pay you a little bit, but let's keep working, you hustle. And eventually we'll be partners and grow it together. So that's just to give the full context, not sales, but if you help do this, if you drive event subscriptions, if you get more page views, things like that, just to make them know that I appreciate you. So that's helpful.
That helps, thank you. Jeff wants to know how old. How old is your son?
Yes, Jeff, that's correct. No, I'm just joking. He's 26. 26.
Ramon, I would just say don't overwhelm him. He's probably been listening to you for years, talk about all of your business and all the things. And my guess is he's intimidated, and you're excited because he's there. And I would just like keep it simple early, let him get some successes, let him get his feet on the ground, and then just start adding. Don't worry about the bonuses. I mean, you don't even know, maybe you do, if that's what drives him. He's going to want to please you. I mean, there's just so much wrapped into this. We could spend 5 hours on it, but man, just keep it simple. Let him get some wins and just watch and just be proud. You'll be proud of every step of that.
Yeah,
love
Jeff,
that.
I'd follow that. I think that's brilliant. Know what drives him. And because it might not be the money, it might be something else.
I appreciate that. And Rachel, you let me know when time is up. I don't want to keep going, but I want to get all the advice first. Go ahead. I was just going to say what drives him. You're right, Jeff. He does want to please, and we just want to grow together. But I want to make sure, but thank you. Point taken. Town and country, please.
Go ahead, David.
I have a son that works for me, so I've been through this before. And I would just say, pay him an appropriate wage. If you start making it too complicated and too complex, it's just going to get I think it'll get messy. Just pay him well, a fair wage, and hold him accountable. Set the goals you have for him and on the projects that you're focusing on, and then just communicate on a regular basis. I think, providing him feedback is going to be very important, and he's going to want that for sure. But I wouldn't get too crazy with all the bonuses and commissions and all that. That really gets that can get complicated.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ramon. Okay, so last call. Any other challenges that anyone wants to talk about? Otherwise, we're going to go into a couple of breakout sessions with a prompt for everybody. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, we'll be on for another half hour or so. So feel free to hang out. You'll be broken out into a smaller group. Make sure you check out the resources afterwards for all of the awesome stuff that was shared in the chat. It was a super lively chat today. We hope that we'll see you all at the summit. So I'm going to say that one more time. I think there are going to be some great conversations like this one. So the question for you in your smaller groups is, based on what you've learned here today, any resources that were shared, what's one thing you can do in the next month, one change you can make in the next month to your hiring or onboarding to help with who you're hiring? And most of you, it looked like you were hiring right now. So what's a change you can make in the next month? Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your breakout groups, and we'll see you next time.